Again, this evening is the preparing for registration and the spring semester. So we're very excited. I see great numbers and they're still jumping, which is even better. So that's wonderful. We have a couple of great guests with us tonight that I will let introduce themselves momentarily. For those of you who have joined us before, thank you. And for all of you who are new, welcome. We're very excited to have you as part of our series tonight. My name is Julie Spring. I'm the Director of Student Services and Advising for the Center for Student Success. And one of the awesome things I get to do is work with our support networks. So our parents, our guardians, our neighbors, whoever the students call as their support network, I get to work with you all and make sure you get the information that you need as we go out throughout the year. So Circle of Support will be an ongoing series. We run them fall, spring, and summer. So stay tuned and we hope that you can join us for more. So without further ado, a couple of business things. I like to let everybody know that we will be using the Q&A in terms of interactions tonight, not the chat. We find it easier to limit it to one so we don't have any confusion. So if a couple of you would like to just pop in a hello right now in the Q&A so we know that you can hear us and see us. You should be set up, I believe, in the speaker view, which means you can likely see me, Julie, and the presentation that has Katie and Brian up. We're getting a bunch of hellos, so I love it. That's always good. It means people can hear us. That's a great way to start the event. And then, like I said, as we go throughout the presentation, what I'll do is I will monitor the chat. I'm sorry, the Q&A, not the chat. I will monitor the Q&A and I will address questions as we go along. But what I like to do is in kind of a timely fashion, I might stop the presenters and have them answer you verbally because sometimes it's easier for you to get the information that way rather than me trying to type it all out for you. So we'll do a little bit of both, but we'll make sure that you leave tonight with all those answers to all those questions. So that's enough from me. I'm gonna go away for a few minutes and I'm gonna let Katie introduce herself and then take it away with Brian. Thank you.
Thanks so much, Julie. Thank you for having us. And thank you everyone who's here tonight. I'm so glad that, there's so much interest in learning about advanced registration and how this kind of process works at UHart. Maybe you have a first year student who's never been through this before, or you have an upper class student and you're like, what are they talking about when they're doing this? So we're excited to be able to share more information with you tonight. So I'm Katie Kitchens. I'm the Executive Director of our Center for Student Success. And so I'll talk a little bit about some the logistics involved in advanced registration. And then we also have Brian Nwafor. I'll let him introduce himself.
Hey, thank you, Katie. Thank you, Julie, for hosting, and welcome to students, families, aunts, uncles, and others. I'm glad to be with all of you here tonight. My name is Brian, and I am a first-year academic advisor for Hilliard College here at UHart, and I will also be teaching all of you a little bit about what advanced registration is like and some things to look out for as students begin to prepare to register for spring classes. All right, so advanced registration, what does that term mean, right? So right now, most students should have received an email from the university stating that it is time to begin to think about and meet with their assigned advisor about registration for spring classes. And so students are in the beginning phases, if they haven't done so already, to reach out to their academic advisor and to essentially begin to pick out courses for spring. And so what's happening now is, depending on the advisor, they're going to reach out to their advisee, which is the student, and they're going to ask that they make a full faith effort to schedule a meeting with our students through Compass. And so that will happen. And so over the next few weeks, few months rather, students will begin to select courses. For most of our first year students, they'll begin to do this on their own for the first time. And so they won't be alone in this. We will walk them through it. And if they have any questions, we will sure to be there to assist them. And so a part of advanced registration what entails with that is the registration pin, which is a unique code given to all first-year students here at UHart. And so that code is key in getting them to register for spring classes. And so it's extremely important that all students meet with their advisor so that they can get a hold of that code. Without that code, they cannot register for classes. So we encourage students to please meet with us. And again, all registration will take place on the website called self-service. And so with self-service, what we'll have students do is complete what's called the enrollment terms and conditions. And so students will have to sign that, acknowledging that there are fees, tuition fees associated with that before they can register for classes. And so I'm going to pass it over to Katie, who will explain the next steps.
Oh, I already did my first one of starting talking before I was unmuted for the night. Sorry, everyone. So what actually do students need to do to go through this advanced registration process? So Brian kind of gave a general overview. What do we mean when we say advanced registration? It's basically just that they're registering before classes start, right? So, I think back in the day, there were, a big registration day, and it was like the first day of class, and you'd go in and you'd go to all these different tables and use your paper and sign the cards and get into your college classes. And now we're able to have students doing that in the semester before so that they're squared away when classes start. So that's why we call it advanced registration here. So what does a student need to do? So right now, students are getting materials from their advisors. Our first year students are getting a lot of this through their US 150, their first year success seminar class. So they're getting sheets that describe the full curriculum over the course of 4 years. They're getting some information on prerequisites and things that they need to be looking out for. And they're getting information about how to physically log into self-service and go to the registration screen. So particularly for our first year students over the summer to get their fall classes, their whole registration was done by their advisor before they got here. So they didn't need to log into self-service and use these screens before. So right now in the class, they're spending a lot of time kind of practicing, getting in, seeing how it works, seeing where they need to look to find classes so that they're well equipped to go through this at like the individual level. So they need to be reviewing information and materials that's provided by their advisor. They should confirm with their advisor any AP credits or any prior college credits that they may have earned before coming here. So again, as Brian said, that meeting with the advisor is really key because that's where they're going to kind of check a lot of these boxes. So especially looking and making sure that any AP credits that they think they should have on file with us, we actually have on file. There's still time to fix it if we don't have it yet, but that's why we want to have that touch point with them and make sure that what they're expecting that we actually have, so that it can help inform the classes that they're going to take next. They should have an email already from the registrar's office that tells them what day they can register for classes. If they have questions about that, or if they don't have that email or anything, their advisor can help them answer that question very easily. If they're an upper class student, they can even ask in the Center for Student Success, even if we're not their advisors, what their registration date is. We're happy to check that out for them and let them know what that date's going to be. So it's like a gradient. So our first couple of days of advanced registration are priority registration for students who have special scheduling needs. So some students may have a priority registration date that's kind of first. And then after that, it goes just based on credits earned. So seniors registering generally first, all the way through to first year students. That can make some people nervous in terms of the registration date, because it's like, oh no, I'm going last. But first year students all take the same courses as other first year students, and generally not the same courses as seniors and juniors. And so they're really not competing with one another for most classes, right? So it's really okay. And our students are going to get the classes that they need to graduate, and their advisors are there to help with all of that. I have seen them open new sections of things if there's just absolutely no space and we have more students that absolutely need the class, so we're going to work with them. I don't want anybody to feel nervous about the date, but they should know it because they should go in and register when it's their date to do that. As I talked about in that first year success seminar class, they're going to be looking at what we call it course search, and that's what it's called on our website. That's that place where you can go into the entire catalog of all of our classes that are offered, set the term to spring, and look up the different classes that they might need. So based on that curriculum that their advisor is working on with them, if they need Bio 123 in the spring semester, they're going to type in Bio 123, see when that class is offered in the spring, and start to piece together a schedule that suits them. So they get a lot of choice. There might be 4 or 5 different times that Bio 123 is going to run in the spring. And they can kind of piece together a schedule that works well for them. They probably learned a lot about themselves in the fall semester and whether they really, really actually love morning classes, or they really need a big break in the middle of the day, or they absolutely need to have class 5 days a week to stay on task, right? So they probably learned a lot and are going to be able to craft a schedule that really suits their needs. In that meeting with the advisor, they're going to go over those classes that they need. Make sure, hey, this was the curriculum sheet I gave you. Did you account for all those when you kind of started to craft your plan? Does everything look okay here? And then they're going to give out that PIN, that special code that Brian was talking about. And then the student's going to go and register online via their self-service center, and they're going to accept any terms and conditions that are associated with just registering for the classes. So that's sort of their step-by-step checklist. When I was putting this slide together, I was like, this is a lot of things, and that's going to probably seem maybe overwhelming. But I don't want anyone out there who's got a first-year student to feel like my student is not going to be able to do a 7-part checklist, because they are not alone. I could also not do a 7-part checklist on my own as a first-year student. It's okay. We're here for them. And, even if they're not first-year students, if they're like, I'm feeling confused, maybe they weren't on campus last year because they were studying remotely because of COVID. There's all kinds of reasons why students might need some extra support this year. And that's what we're here for. So don't hesitate to call on us. I'm going to turn it over to Brian for our next slide about any challenges they might encounter.
All right, thank you so much, Katie. That was a lot of information there, and valuable information nonetheless. So thank you, Katie. All right, challenges, impediments that might prevent your student from registering for classes. So first thing on the list here, holds on students' accounts. So some of you, some students might have financial holds on their account, right? Some of them might have immunization holds, which again are different, completely different from the COVID-19 vaccine requirement that we've been asking students to show proof of. So the immunization form, essentially what that's asking for is proof that you've gotten the meningitis vaccine, chickenpox, varicella, et cetera, right? We're looking for that particular set of vaccines. So we strongly encourage you to submit that information as soon as possible, because that will prevent registration for your student. I mentioned financial holds, right? So if you owe a balance, right, a past due balance from this semester, you need to talk with us in the Center for Student Success, or you can talk to our bursar's office here at the university, and we can work with you to ensure that that doesn't become an impediment towards registration for spring. There are some other holds on that I can't remember off the top of my head right now, but we have been sending emails to students over the past few weeks, and so they are very much aware of what they need to do, and we'll continue to work with them to make sure that that doesn't become an issue going forward. The second item here is classes out of sequence, right? So for whatever reason, some students might not have been able to take the full set of recommended courses depending on their major for this particular semester, which is all right. Things happen. Sometimes classes get full, and so students run out of luck in terms of picking out classes that they were recommended to take for this particular semester, which is completely all right. Sometimes you might have students who probably got an advanced placement credit for getting a 3 or above on a particular exam, 4 or 5 on a particular exam. And so they were able to advance to a higher course. So for example, in Hilliard College, which is who I advise students for, if students are taking Math 110, most students are taking Math 110. Some students might have tested into Math 111, or maybe they did well in high school where their scores in algebra class permitted them to take Math 111. Those students that are taking Math 111 right now might be out of sequence. And so what we'll have to do is we'll work with them during this time to come up with other classes that they can take to either fulfill that missing credit that they've already fulfilled as they came into the university, or we can find some other classes within their curriculum to take that doesn't impact their the number of credits that they'll take going forward in any given semester. The other thing that we want to focus on is prerequisites, right? So when students meet with us over the next few weeks, month or so, we are recommending classes to students based off of how they are doing currently this semester. So if we look up a student's class and we see that they have an A or a B in their class, right? We will recommend that they take the next set of classes, or we'll recommend that they take the next class in sequence, right? So if the student is doing well in math 110, then we will recommend that they'll take 111. And so I just want to point that out that, again, these classes that we're recommending are based off of how students are doing this semester. Now, let's say it's December, right? And final grades are out. And let's say that students didn't do so well, or maybe they didn't get the requisite grade. For example, in English, most students need a C or better to do well and move on to the next course in the English set of classes. What we'll do is we'll go back, we'll meet with the student, and we'll recommend that they either retake that class, or we can have them maybe take a winter class or something in between the two big semesters, so that we can ensure that they do pass that class and they're able to appropriately move on to the next set of classes. And the last thing here is lecture lab combinations, right? So some students might be taking a lecture or a lab, right? Some students might be taking a chemistry class. And so if the student passes the lecture portion of chemistry, but they don't necessarily pass the lab portion, depending on the situation, some students might be able to retake the lab, or if they failed the lecture, they might be able to take just the lecture portion only. But it depends on the college, it depends on the situation. I hope that makes sense. Katie, is there anything else you want to mention in here? Did I get everything?
Yeah, I think so. This probably is like overwhelming at this point. Julie, do we have any questions in the chat that we can answer live? I feel like we've covered so much already, and I'm like, wow, that was like 10 minutes, but we've just gone over like what we would cover with your students over the course of like 4 class periods. So are there questions we can answer live right now? Please feel free to pop them in the chat, or Julie, if you're seeing any, let me know.
There is one, and I thought you were actually asking because you saw me frantically looking for my billing paper that I
did see you checking your charts.
Couldn't find the chart fast enough. The question is, when is the spring tuition payment due?
Yeah.
So
we have not billed yet for spring. We haven't even charged you. So it's due. It's not going to be due until closer to January, the start of classes. So we're going to be doing our billing for spring. I want to say, Julie, it's the first week in December, like maybe around December 8th, 7th or 8th, that bill will actually go out. And then that bill will have a due date on it. It's about 30 days after we actually charge. So that you can expect it to fall right in that general vicinity. Anything else you're seeing?
So the follow-up question is a great one. So they register prior to pay.
Yes. And actually having classes on their spring schedule is what generates the bill. So something to keep in mind, if for some reason your student is delayed in registering and it's past that December bill when we would actually bill, they won't get a spring bill until they're actually registered for spring classes. And I'm going to do one more plug for immunization records. So because that always gets some questions. I don't know if you're seeing any right now, but I would be remiss if I did not mention at least something. Most students have already done this. So this isn't something that we just started asking for. This was something a lot of students did over the summer. So if you're suddenly like, oh no, what about those records? I thought I did it. You probably did. But if you didn't, then your student's been receiving communications about that from us. So check in with your student. If they're getting emails from us or text messages from us that say, hey, we are missing some immunization records for you, that'd be your clue, right? That something's not right here and we need to get some documentation in. So hopefully your students already been communicating with you if they did have an issue and we were missing any records for them. But if not, then checking in with them is a really good idea.
Thank you. We have one more, and then, well, we have a few more, but I know you also want to get back. In terms of staying in the same vein, there's one about if we did a payment plan last semester, do we have to sign up again? We know that answer is yes. And if you want to explain that a little bit, that'd be great.
Happy to. So when the new bill comes out in the beginning of December, you'll have until December 15th to set up that payment plan for the spring semester bill. Just like when the bill came out in July for fall, you had until July 15th to set up that payment plan. You can start setting it up earlier. You just don't have the actual bill. And we know it can be off by, a couple dollars here or there because of lab fees and things like that. So I like to wait for the bill, but I think you could sort of mentally start to get acquainted with the idea that it's going to be roughly the same as fall semester, just about, give or take a little bit. And then once you get the bill in December, you can actually go in and set that up. Or you can set it up early and then make an adjustment to it when you get the December bill. It's totally up to you. But yeah, that'll be something that'll open up in November for you to go in and start doing, and won't close until December 15th for the 5 payment option. There's also a 4 payment and a 3 payment option if you were to sign up a little bit later in January or February.
Okay, why don't you guys hop on to your next slide, and then I will keep looking at these to see if we should hold them or if I can answer them directly.
Sounds great.
Thank you.
Okay, me again, sorry. So what can you do as the support system for your student to help facilitate this process? Especially if it's their first time and they're kind of going through it alone, even though we're going to spend 4 class periods going over this information, it can still feel stressful. So I think just checking in with them, asking about their spring classes. Hey, are you thinking about spring classes? What are you supposed to take for spring? Just to get a sense of where they're at in their own minds, if they're able to answer your question. And if not, they should probably meet with their advisor sooner and help them, ask good questions. I'm skipping ahead to the end. I love the help them ask good questions one. So encourage an early meeting with their advisor. Their advisor's already been reaching out to set things up with the students who might have questions and get their pins and everything through the class or through Compass. Work with your student to resolve any holds. So just like I was talking about with asking about those immunization records, if they're getting any emails, are they worried about anything? Sometimes I find the circles of support don't have necessarily the vocabulary around what's a hold. They don't know to ask that question. And so we like to have these sessions so we can teach you, here's what's going on. Here's the kinds of things your students might be seeing, receiving, hearing, so that you can ask them, hey, do you have any holds on your student account that might prevent you from registering? And that may make them go, oh, shoot, yeah, I do. Mom, sorry, I really been meaning to ask you about that. So just having that language to be able to chat with them about that, see if there's any issues holding things up. They might be a little stressed or think that they did something wrong, or, then we try to encourage them to really reach out to us, but they might not have, reached out yet if they're having trouble or if they're concerned about something. There's so much else going on right now. So working with them to help get any holds resolved. If they do have that immunization paperwork that's missing, right now, then helping them work with their physician, their pediatrician, so they can get that documentation over to us. It's all digital. So there's, nothing need be faxed, which is great. We've moved into the new century, so that they don't have to actually do that by fax or mail or anything anymore. It's all digital. So it should be a much more quick and easy process for everyone this year. And then, as I was kind of alluding to, help them ask questions. So if you say to your student, hey, what are you thinking about for spring classes? And they say, oh, I have no idea. Then having a good conversation with them about, well, have you talked to your advisor about that? What are they talking about in your class? What might be the next step for you? Are you still happy in your major? And then helping them work through their own thought processes around those things so that they're ready for their meeting with their advisor and can ask the right questions. So we don't make the assumption that they're, everything's hunky-dory and they're super happy. We're gonna prompt them a little bit on different things with how classes are going and whether they're, still finding satisfaction in their major. But it's always helpful if they've had that, conversation in advance with somebody like you that they know really well. You're their circle of support, of course, and that, they can kind of work out their thoughts and feelings with. So let's see. I think we are ready to take more questions. So let's see. Let me see if I can pull up the Q&A here and see if there's anything I can jump into. Should be all on you, Julie.
Yeah, no, thank you. If you want to start maybe from the bottom, because I'm at the top working with Doug right now.
Cool.
Thank you.
Yeah, so here's a great question. Do freshmen get a new advisor sophomore year, or do they stay with the same one? So our first year advising program, where they get a professional advisor through the Center for Student Success, is just for the first year. After that, they're going to move up to having a faculty advisor who's in their major specifically. So our first year advisors work with a lot of different majors, and they love working with students. They're amazing at working with students and helping navigate all those different things about the transition to college. And then when a student is kind of more solid in their major and they're starting to think about things like internships and upper level study and concentrations and all of that, we have them paired with a faculty member in their major, so that they can have some of those more in-depth conversations about working in the field that they've chosen and things like that. So that we will help them transition now. And we're always here, right? I mean, I've said so many times, I feel like already, hey, have them come by and see us, even if they're a junior and they just have questions. We don't go anywhere. So please, if they're concerned, or if they have any questions we can help with, we're still in the same place.
All right, let me jump in here and answer a few questions myself. Let's see here. All right, we're starting at the bottom, correct? Okay. So, oh, this thing is moving. Let's see here. There was a question here about the deadline for registration. So should we give them, Katie, Julie, the simple answer, or should we give them the more nuanced answer? So I would say register as soon as possible. Whenever it's your time for you to register, so depending on the date and the time, register as soon as you can. As you get closer to the start of the semester, and as the semester does start, students do have the opportunity to make changes to their schedule. And so that is always an ongoing process. I will say that if you're looking for an absolute deadline, right? So every semester has a point where students have to make a choice to either make a class pass, no pass. We can talk about what that means. Or if they're looking to withdraw from a class, right? There is a hard deadline for that. And that's usually for spring. Katie, Julie, correct me if I'm wrong, that's usually sometime in March. So I hope that answers that person's question.
Awesome, thank you. And I'm seeing a question I really want to answer live because I want everyone to hear this one. A student in the honors program, will her advisor help her figure out how to schedule an honors class for next semester? Absolutely, yes. So we really want our students who are taking honors classes right now, or who are eligible for the honors program, we're just interested in the honors program because they're really doing their best in college and just are excited about taking their study to the next level. So that's definitely going to be happening in those conversations with the advisor. The advisor might bring it up, the student can always bring it up, but yes, there are absolutely going to be a ton of honors courses offered for next semester. And we really, really want our students who are interested in honors to continue on. Or to start new with honors classes for the spring. Thanks so much for asking that. I'm really excited I got the chance to talk about that.
Katie, there's actually a great question about, do advisors check registrations to make sure things look good? Do you want to talk a little bit about that process?
Yeah, so it works a little bit differently in each of our colleges, depending on how strict the curriculum is for the major, right? So in some of our colleges where it's really like you have to take all these classes in this order, in this way, in order to make it out in your 4 years, advisors are going to be a lot more hands-on in terms of checking that the student is doing exactly what they said they were doing. Julie, I'm kind of looking at you here because I know in your advising world in CETA, that is very important to how this works. In some other colleges, like the College of Arts and Sciences, students have so much room for electives. So they might have a conversation with their advisor where they say, hey, for your major, you're going to want to take this class because that's next. But you really have all of these other options. You could take a history class, you could take a philosophy class, you could take a social science class. And they're going to have a conversation about what the student's interested in, what they might want to do next. And their advisor is going to talk to them about lots of options. And they might even set settle in that meeting on, here's what I'm going to go for. Here's what I think is kind of my ideal schedule. But because there's so much room, the student can change their minds, and that's okay. Especially in the first year, there is just so much time to make sure that they've got all their ducks in a row in terms of their classes for their major and for their general education credits and for their electives. And so there's not as much kind of making sure that every single thing is done the way that they discussed it, because it's okay if it wasn't. And so it's always going to just look a little bit different depending on where the student is. But if they, don't register for enough credits, that's a big red flag, no matter what the college is, right? If you have a conversation with your advisor, you're supposed to take 15 credits, you're supposed to take, your 5 classes. And then we see on, our reports that you're only registered for 9, we're going to follow up with you just to figure out, hey, what happened? Were you not able to get into what you wanted? Let's regroup. Let's figure out what's going to work next. So that's kind of how we approach that with our different students and their needs.
A super quick one. When is registration for classes for winter session?
So registration for winter classes is right now, actually. Are you asking for the deadline, correct? Or
No, it just says when is registration, so I'm guessing they just mean when has it opened, and you were correct. Go.
yeah, it's open right now. By all means, feel free to register for classes. I believe over 90% of our classes are online this time around. So just keep that in mind. But yeah, you are more than welcome to register for winter classes.
Okay, sorry, I apologize. I'm trying to read the questions as fast as I can. Another question is the dates for the winter session. So I know they begin, I just looked at this today. Don't they begin the Monday right after Christmas? So is that like the 20?
That's typical, January 3rd, and then they're going to run for that 2.5, 3 weeks in there before we start spring classes. Some are going to start earlier. So you always want to have, especially in these special sessions, like winter and summer, checking the dates, the start and end date, and it's right there in course search. They can see exactly the date range that specific course is going to run. In certain winter sessions, if we're having that combination of on-campus classes and virtual classes, sometimes the virtual classes will start a little bit earlier in late December, and then the on-campus classes will start in January. So just keep an eye on what they're actually registering for and make sure that they know.
So I'm going to jump in real quickly. Someone is asking, these are great questions, by the way. Thank you so much. This is what makes these wonderful.
I can tell you're going to help your students ask great questions because y'all have great questions. That's awesome.
This is great. I'm just apologize that I can't keep up as quickly as I would like. What is meant by winter classes? We're in fall and they're signing up for spring. So great question, because we use these terms and yet we don't really mean the way they fit in the time of year. So yes, we are in fall semester right now. Winter, quote unquote, courses are the courses that happen right after the holiday. So again, that week of either the 27th or January 3rd, up until we start the, again, quote unquote, spring semester, which is the middle of January. So I believe our spring semester this year starts on January 19th. So the courses that go from that late December, early January to the week prior to Martin Luther King Day is that our little mini winter session. And then our spring courses begin in January. Like I said, I believe day 1 is January 19th this spring. But I know those are confusing words because of the way we're calling the months, and it's not necessarily the way they fall. Can you register before your given date? Great question. And unfortunately, the answer is no. So you can register as of midnight on your given date, and then anytime after that. So a lot of students will stay up and they will wait till 12:01 on their registration date, and they will get right in there and do all of their registration. But unfortunately, you do have to wait until the given date. Another great question, Katie or Brian, if you want to address this, can a student take more than 18 credits if they have time in their schedule?
Yeah, I'll take that one. So the answer is yes. However, you will have to have a conversation with the dean of your associated school. So depending on the college that you're in, Arts and Sciences, Hillier, CETA, the Hart School, etc. you need to talk with the dean of your of the college that you're enrolled in, and make sure that one, you are ready to take on more than the 18 credit standard here at the university. If the dean determines that you are equipped to handle more than 18 credits, then they'll sign what's called a credit overload form. Yes, yep. And so you'll submit that form to the Center for Student Success, and we will get that processed for you. So yeah, I hope that answers your question.
Great job, Brian.
Yeah.
Katie, I'm seeing another honors question, so I know you love those. Can a student take honors classes in a certain subject without being in the honors program?
Yes, they can. And that's often how our students find their way into the honors program, is because they're just taking an honors class just to see how it feels, or because they're especially interested in that subject matter. So absolutely, it's not locked to only our declared honors students. They can 100% do it. And maybe they do it and they find they really like honors and they want to join the honors program, and we're here for that.
Another great follow-up question. Can they join the honors program in January?
Yeah, so they can join it at any point. It's just a matter of, are they going to be able to fulfill the requirements to kind of graduate with honors within the time that they have left. So if they've never taken an honors class before and they decide to join in the fall of their senior year, is it possible? Yes. Is it likely? No. So we obviously want them to do it early, but really we're not talking about 50 credits of honors classes. We're really only talking about like 18. So they can absolutely do it, even if they do it late, or not in the first year. They decide in the sophomore year. So no worries.
Julie, if you don't mind, let me answer Patricia and let's see, Nancy's question.
Absolutely.
Yeah, so Patricia, let me answer your question first. So I would say that as the parent, I would encourage your student to schedule a meeting, right? So depending on the level of FERPA permissions the student has granted you, Patricia, you can certainly encourage your student to show you that they are in the process of making an appointment on campus with their advisor. Or you can just ask them, hey, did you make that advising appointment with your advisor? So I hope that answers your question. And for Nancy, regarding Thanksgiving break. So students, and Katie and Julie, correct me if I'm wrong here, students begin their break on November 20th and they will come back the 29th. So they get a whole week off. And so, so basically, in regards to your question, students coming back in January, not necessarily, they don't get that much of a break. They will come back on November 29th following the Thanksgiving break, which starts on November 20th.
Perfect. Thank you. We have a couple more. Again, these are fabulous questions. There's a question about a high school class and whether or not it counts as an elective or as a required course. So that is a great question for the student to work with their advisor on. Again, depending on the school or college, there's a little bit more flexibility in terms of whether, like, how things may or may not come in based on accreditations and things like that. So the admission office does some of the evaluation, the colleges do some of the evaluation, but the advisors have some sort of a report that has been given to them that will tell them how the classes come in. And we also are working on a connection to another program that our advisors will soon have access to, which will be wonderful because it will be a full evaluation of what a student has, how it's coming in, all of that. And actually, Katie and I were just in talks this morning with another department, and we're waiting on the final approvals for us all to be able to do that. And that will be a huge assistance to everyone. But in terms of right now, your student can reach out to their advisor, say, I'm looking to find out if Class A came in as an elective or as a required course. That is absolutely information the advisor should have. And if for some reason the advisor is concerned and not sure, then they can certainly reach out to myself or Katie. We can dig a little bit deeper and find out that information. All right. Let me see
Julie, if
what
you don't
else.
mind, there are a couple questions here from over 20 minutes ago. Anonymous attendee. Okay, I guess, yeah. Yeah, just one question here. How available will tutors be in the spring? My daughter has been on a waiting list for biolab tutor for a while. Good question. So I would say tutors are usually available. I mean, they do publish schedules in advance. Correct me if I'm wrong here, Julie or Katie. So students are able to go on the tutoring website, which is on our website, and they can go ahead and put in their information, right, depending on the class that they're struggling with. And they should be able to see a spreadsheet of each tutor and what their hours are like. And so I personally haven't heard of any issues with lack of availability for tutors. So hopefully that answers that question.
For certain classes, I would say oh, sorry, Julie, you do you.
All I was going to say was a little plug that on November 30th, there will actually be a circle of support that will involve the tutoring center. So great to bring those questions to that event as well, and we can get it directly from them. Carry on.
I love it. And if you're not able to come to that session, then I would just say, that the earlier they request a tutor, the better, particularly for some of the high demand courses, such as biology and chemistry and math they're always our top courses in terms of what gets requested through the tutoring center. And we do have a limited number of tutors, and they have a limited number of hours that they can give to tutoring other students. And so, because they are students themselves, right? So they only have about 20 hours a week at a maximum that they would even be allowed to work on campus. And so in some of those high demand classes, it can take a little bit longer to match somebody with a tutor, or if they request it, a couple weeks into the semester, then it can be a little bit more challenging if the tutor schedules are filling up. But making those requests early is going to be your best bet. Hopefully I didn't steal their thunder for November 30th.
Not at all. We'll allow it. We do seem to have some support systems who are in disbelief over the Thanksgiving week. So we're going to reiterate one more time that yes, we close on Saturday the 20th, and they do not have to be back until Monday. It's the 29th, correct?
Yes.
Correct.
So enjoy, hopefully, that week of having everybody home together.
Yes, and we haven't always done that, but we've gotten a lot of feedback from our students and families in the past. A lot of students were leaving on Friday and they were missing class because families had, vacations or get-togethers or, just reasons to be together during the holidays. And so it's really become a priority of ours to help all of our students be able to have that time so that we don't have, some missing, important instructional time. So we've really adjusted our academic calendar to be able to allow that full week for the students. So I'm hearing that they're excited about it. I don't know if I'm hearing that you're excited about it, or or maybe if you're in disbelief because you didn't know you were going to get them for a whole week and now you do. So yay, let us know though. We'd love to hear your feedback too.
Katie, a couple of quick questions regarding Res Life. And again, I know in November, we're also having a Res Life circle of support, but I just think that this group is ahead of the game and I love it. Keeping their same room and roommate for spring is one question. And do they have to move out between fall and spring? Are we able to address those two questions?
Yes. Again, not to steal anyone else's thunder for any future circles of support that you have, but so generally, yes, the student's going to keep the same housing assignment from the fall semester to the spring semester. They're going to keep their same room. They don't need to pack up every single thing and move completely out and bring all that stuff home just to bring it back, a month later. So the space is still there and can hold their belongings for them for that period of time. And so yes, their roommate would stay the same unless any student has requested a change. That would be something like a totally different situation. But obviously we don't want them to leave pets or anything else like that. We don't want them to leave food over the break, but certainly, out of season clothes, things that they may not need with them over the break, old textbooks and things like that. That's fine. They can leave in the room. If they have other bedding at home, leave their college bedding here. That's also fine. So you can work with your student specifically on kind of what that packing situation should look like, but hopefully it doesn't look like you and 3 U-Hauls coming up for the end of December to bring them home.
Apologies. I was typing in, not realizing you were ready for the next question. I'm so sorry. Let me see. Oh, we've got some that are excited about the longer break, so that's all good news. Someone else is happy to not have to lug all the things back and forth. We love that. Okay, question about, are the residence halls open for students if they do need to stay for that Thanksgiving week?
I believe so, but I don't want to speak too out of turn here. And as that's a Res Life question in particular, but I do think that they have the ability to stay. We would just need to know who they are. So I think getting in contact with Res Life early to just figure out what the process is to make us aware that the student is going to be here over the Thanksgiving break. But I don't believe that the residence halls are closed during that time. Julie, have you heard anything different than that?
I have not. The only firm answer I had was on graduate students. I do know graduate students can stay, and that was because I had a situation with a student worker. So I have to imagine there's probably other arrangements that can be made, but I can, again, like Katie, I can only speak to, I know for sure if it's a graduate student, they are able to stay with the permission. There's a form that has to be filled out.
And if you are wanting the answer to those questions and getting kind of anything completely firmed up and aren't willing to go with, we think so, which I wouldn't blame you, I would have you contact ResLife, RESLIFE at hartford.edu just to get that full answer from their office. And you can do that, before the circle of support, which would be after Thanksgiving anyway. So.
Let's see. Oh, great question. Do students have access to their dorms over winter break? That I believe is no, correct, Katie? Because of well, I guess we would have to define winter break.
Yeah, I would want them to work it out with Res Life specifically if they have, a particular reason why they might need access to the space for a limited period of time. Again, this is really focused about student safety because we need to know who's here and who's staying overnight and who's on campus. And that's, not just for COVID reasons, but just for general, health and well-being and safety reasons. So that's why we do have that formal registration process for staying over winter break, is because we really need to know who is here on campus. And so if they, we couldn't just say, yes, you can come and go, because then, maybe come and going turns into, I'm really tired and I'm just going to crash here for the night because it feels like home to them. And that makes perfect sense. But what we really need to make sure of is that we know every single student who's on our campus, staying on our campus, sleeping on our campus. So I would want you to work directly with Res Life if there's something you think your student might need to come back for briefly, to get over winter break, or if there's a time period where they might want to stay and actually live in their room over winter break.
So one note that I'm going to make for the future, and thank you to all of you who are here this evening, is that for this event, we should have someone from Res Life here because I didn't think about how many of the questions would run into the break and all of that. So this is great. And this is a great learning lesson for us as well. Okay, let me see what else we have. I think we're very close. I think we've addressed this one, but again, the keeping their items between, I'm sorry, my brain was going faster than my mouth could. Keeping their items in their residence hall between the semesters. They don't have to pack everything up and bring it back for the spring. So I just want to be sure that we're clear on that as well. No, you do not have to move everybody home and move everybody back. So we are all set. As long as they're staying in the same location, you are good to go. Okay, that was fantastic. All right, so let me just take a peek and make sure. It looks like we've cleared everything out for the moment. So what I like to do at this point is give both Katie and Brian one more second. If there's anything that they want to add in at the very end, that always gives us a few last moments to make sure nobody has any final questions. And then if after they are done, we realize we're all set, then we will thank everybody for coming.
Katie, you want to go first,
I was
or?
gonna say, I didn't know I would need to have a closing argument here ready to go. So I'll just say that again, we're so happy with the numbers of folks who joined us tonight, and we're so happy with your questions. I mean, this level of engagement from everybody's communities of support is really awesome to see, and will absolutely help your students be successful. So I'm thrilled to see that, and I'm so glad that we got a chance to meet with you guys tonight.
Likewise, I agree with Katie. I very much enjoyed being a part of this discussion tonight. All of you provided us with very insightful questions, and we hope that we were able to answer all of them. I recognize a few people on this call, and so I'll definitely be connecting with you over the next few days or so. And yeah, I'm just always very willing to help lend a hand wherever I can. And thank you to Julie and Katie for being a part of this webinar tonight. And I hope all of you have a good night.
Thank you, Brian and Julie.
Thank you guys so much. You're getting some great shout outs, and that always does so much for our hearts and souls as we do these things. And we love that you guys are loving what we're presenting. So thank you so much. I know a few of you have emailed me on the side, and rest assured, I will get back to you either as soon as we're done or first thing tomorrow, depending on how much research I have to do on those questions. So thank you, thank you, thank you. So again, let me just shameless plug our circle of support here. I want to just peek really quickly. We have a little bit of a break coming up. I believe our next one is the 9th. So yes, November 9th will be our residential life one. Very, very good timing.
There we go. It is before Thanksgiving. Yay.
There you go. Yep. So I was going to say, I thought that was one that we had on the books, but I was confused by my own dates. So yes, November 9th, residential life circle of support. So please join us for that one, and you'll get all those questions answered regarding breaks and spring and all of that. And then we will have one more on November 30th, which will be the preparing for finals and exams and the final week of the semester and all of that. So a few more to really round out the semester and make sure everyone's getting the answers that they need. Of course, do not wait till a circle of support to feel like you can get your answers to all the questions. You can always reach out to us at css@hartford.edu, and we are more than happy to help. Or again, reach out to myself, Katie, or Brian, and we'll get you to all the right people. So thank you to everyone who attended. We love the energy. We love the numbers. Thank you so much to Katie and Brian, because I know that this is not always an easy thing to get on your schedule as well. And Katie, special thanks to your little one, because he was very well behaved, so you could present tonight.
I'm sorry if you all could hear his podcast in the background, but yes, he did a great job.
He really did. So thank you all again. I'm just peeking to making sure we don't have any other questions. Okay, there's one bit of information for me. I will make sure that it gets addressed before I close everything out. So everyone else, I think we are good to go, and I just will not close things out until I answer that one more question. Thank you so much, and have a great night.
Good night.